What's up, guys? We have a very special video for you today. We are upgrading the brakes on the Civic to Integra Type-R brakes all around, and I'm going to show you how to do it without converting to 5-lug. So this is one of the best options for an OEM big brake upgrade for a Civic or a 4-lug Integra. These are Integra Type-R calipers and everything else that you need to do this brake upgrade with these calipers. Now I do want to give a huge shout out to PowerStop. They provided most of this stuff for me, which is amazing, super helpful. Thank you for your contribution to the build. I'm going to go over everything that we have here. So first, on this side, we have Mini Cooper rotors. These are for a 2007 base Mini Cooper. They are 4-lug, they are 4x100, and they are the right hub bore. These are 280 millimeter rotors. These are PowerStop drilled and slotted rotors. They are 2 millimeters smaller than Integra Type-R rotors, 5-lug rotors, but they are the same otherwise. Over here, we have Integra Type-R calipers. These are OEM rebuilt calipers by PowerStop. They're also powder coated red. And then right here we have TSX brake pads. So these are front and rear brake pads from a 2004 TSX, not Type S, just the regular base TSX. What this is these are almost identical to Integra Type-R brake pads in the front. They sit in a few millimeters further to make up for the difference in size between the Mini Cooper rotors and the Integra Type-R pads. Now the rear pads are actually identical, same part number to Integra Type-R brake pads. In fact, most Hondas use these rear brake pads. These pads are PowerStop's best street pad. So they are one step below the track pads. They're good for high performance or high horsepower cars that are going to be driven on the road. So I will put links for all of this stuff in the description. And then over here, these things we were unable to get from PowerStop because they don't have them. They don't offer them. So these are rear rotors from a 2002 to 2003 Civic Si EP3 4-lug. These are direct bolt-on. They're the same size as Integra Type-R rotors. They just have 4 lugs instead of 5. Over here, we have Integra Type-R rear calipers. Now, I'm going to list links in the description to most of the stuff. I'm going to list it to the PowerStop stuff. I'm not going to put links to this, but I will put the part number. And I'm not going to put a link to these calipers specifically because they're expensive and I don't recommend them. So these are OEM Integra Type-R rebuilt calipers, but they're hard to find. There's only like one company that does them, and they're expensive as hell. Now instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to link EP3 or RSX base calipers because they are the same. They're cheaper, and the only difference is the bleeder location. So what you actually end up having to do is just bleed them off the car. But other than that, they're just a better option. They take the same brake pad. So they take Integra Type-R rear brake pads. And you can actually buy them from PowerStop. So PowerStop doesn't have the Integra Type-R calipers, but they do have the EP3 calipers. So I am going to list all of this stuff, links to all of it in the description. So once again, thank you, PowerStop. And let's continue on with the build. One thing I forgot to mention, if you do use the EP3 calipers rather than this, I was told that you need the e-brake bracket, which doesn't look like it comes with these calipers anyway. I think it's this, what they're talking about. So you do need that off of an Integra or a Civic Si or something of the sorts. Either that or they might be talking about this. I'm not entirely sure, but I think they're more likely talking about that, which is this bracket right here. One other thing that I do want to address is some of you might remember that I did this same front brake upgrade on my gray Civic, and I ended up having an issue with the calipers starting to leak right outside of their warranty. So I made a video of myself rebuilding those calipers, and when I made that video, I was angry and I said some unfair things, and PowerStop actually reached out to me about that video. Not because they were mad about it, but because they wanted to fix the situation. And I kind of just blew them off for a little bit. And then when I started doing this build, you know, I reached back out to them, and they said that they wanted to help me out with the build. So, not because they asked me, but because I wanted to, I took down that previous video of rebuilding the calipers. I am going to re-edit that video and upload it at some point because it was a very helpful video, but for now that video is going to remain taken down just for the time being. Another suggestion that I would like to add, if you ever have a problem with something that you purchased, maybe before posting about it online, reach out to the company, even if it's out of warranty, because chances are they may still be willing to help you. So as I mentioned before, this is a direct bolt-on. However, there are some prerequisites depending on the car that you have. So if you have an Integra or a Civic Si, this will be a direct bolt-on. If you have pretty much any other Civic, you're going to have to do some work. However, I think there are some exceptions. I believe any Civic with rear disc brakes, this will also be a direct bolt-on for. If you are like me and you have a DX, then you will have to do some stuff first. So back here, I have a rear disc brake swap from an Integra. You will have to do something like that. I do have videos on this, so just go back and watch my other videos. Maybe I'll put like a little card up in the corner so that you can click on that and watch how to do the rear disc swap. In the front, I do have Integra brakes up here. These Civics come with 9.3 inch brakes, I think, or something really tiny, and this stuff does not bolt on to those spindles. So you have to get spindles out of like an EX Civic, something that came with 10.3 inch brakes from the factory. These are actually off of an Integra. That works as well. I got these from a junkyard. I think both sides, I want to say I paid $40 for them with the brakes on them and everything. So all you have to do to get this off is undo this axle nut here. You have to undo the upper ball joint, the lower ball joint, the brake lines, and the tie rod end, and this whole thing comes off, and that just bolts onto this car as well. So as long as you have disc brakes in the rear and either the factory 10.3 inch brakes on a Civic or upgraded to them or upgraded to Integra brakes, then this will be a direct bolt-on for you. So if you are doing this swap, a couple things you may want to upgrade are the master cylinder and brake booster. And if you haven't already and you did a rear disc swap on your Civic, you may want to consider upgrading your proportioning valve as well. I have one from a 99 2000 Civic Si. They can come from any non-ABS Honda Civic with disc brakes. That I would say is optional because there are some people that run disc brakes without that proportioning valve. However, if you have a DX like me, I would definitely consider upgrading the master cylinder and brake booster. I have a 1-inch master cylinder and brake booster from an ABS Integra that are going to go on this car once I pull the motor out. I'm going to leave the stock stuff for now. The stock DX brake master cylinder is 13/16, I think, and then the EX Civic is 7/8, which I ran the Type-R front brakes with the 7/8 master cylinder, and they felt great. So you might be able to get away with that. I would probably recommend a 15/16 if you're upgrading it. You can get like a non-ABS Integra 15/16 brake master cylinder or an ABS Integra 1-inch, which is the same as an Integra Type-R, which is what I got. So I won't be installing those in this video. I'm just going to be installing the brakes. So the first thing I'm going to do is unbolt this brake line from here, and then I'm also going to start unbolting it from here, but I'm going to hang the new caliper back here somewhere so I can quickly move the line from this caliper and screw it into the new one to prevent the most amount of brake fluid from leaking out. That was more difficult than I thought it was going to be. So I did lose more brake fluid than I was hoping. So I'm going to have to go ahead and top that off up there. But just for comparison, we're going to hold these side by side. And you want to be more careful with these than I am. But yeah, look at the size comparison there. Actually, it's kind of hard to tell. But you have to compare this part right here to just that part right there. Quite a bit bigger. And then here's a rear caliper size comparison as well. It's a big difference. So the next thing that we're going to do is take off this caliper, which is just these two bolts right here, and then the caliper bracket, which is this bolt right here and another one down there. And that will pull off the caliper, the pads, and the caliper bracket. And then normally with the Civic, you have two set screws here, which mine are drilled out because They were completely stripped, so I had to drill them out, and then the rotor comes off. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull all of that off right now.
The world stops spinning. My head is spinning too. Time stops.
For the next step, the factory dust shield is a little bit too big for the calipers. So there's these parts right here that overhang. So you have to cut this straight here. So cut this little tab off. And then down here you have to cut the tab off on this part as well. You can use tin snips, you can use an angle grinder, you can use a Sawzall. All of them should work. But I'm gonna go ahead and cut that off right now.
Is your head spinning too? Should I stop or are you falling for me?
So here's a quick little rotor comparison. This is the stock front brakes, and then these are the ones that we're putting on. The next steps are just to go ahead and reassemble everything. Alright, so I got the brake pads in here, and one thing that I would like to note is on the other brake pads that I chose last time, I had to break the squealer off because they didn't fit. With the power stop pads, it is still a tight fit, but the squealer fits in there. So you don't have to break the squealer off on the inside of the little tab. The one thing that you do still have to do, though, is if you look over here from this side, you can see the rotor protrudes just past the brake pads here. And normally, this clip inside of the caliper right here, it presses on the back of the brake pads to keep them from making noise. It'll put pressure on the back of them here. However, because the rotor sticks out a little bit past the brake pads, it actually hits the rotor instead and makes noise. So for this brake upgrade, we have to pull this clip out right here. We still have the clips holding the top of the pad in and the bottom, so we don't have to worry about too much noise or anything like that. I didn't have a problem with it. Just go ahead and pop this clip out of the caliper here. And then you can go ahead and bolt the caliper on, and we're all done with the front. And just like that, we are all finished here. With the front, at least. Man, that looks awesome. Wow. I'm so excited. That's so cool. I love it. I like how you can see the little extreme there too. That's pretty sweet. More important than this, well, not really, but look at that for us. It's beautiful. It's been getting neglected. I washed it today, and I got this thing that's like unlimited washes for the month. Since this is my winter beater, and it's not much of a winter beater, I want to take care of it. So I am going to, wash it like almost every day this month, at least until the snow is gone. It's 50 degrees outside. The polar vortex is over. It was like -20, I think, at one point, which is crazy. Now it's 50. So like 70-degree difference in like two days time. But yeah, check it out. There's a new little ding right here, though. I'm really sad about it. I don't know if you can see it. You can kind of see it. I don't know what that came from, but I'll have to roll that out with the fender roller. But the FRS looks great. And look at those Spec D headlights. Yeah, that's an awesome car. And we also have to show love to the Sport. Look at that, boy. This is Alex's car. He doesn't wash it. Alright, so now it's time to get going on the back here. It looks like this is a pretty tight fit, so we may have to chop some of this off to fit the bigger caliper. I'm not sure though, I've never actually done this brake upgrade on the back before, but we're going to go ahead and pull this caliper off. We're going to do the same thing where I hang the other caliper back here and swap the brake lines over. But to get this caliper off, what we have to do is undo this bolt here, and we have to undo the e-brake. So if you come up here, you see there's a pin right here. This has to come out. It's broken loose on mine, so I won't have any issues with it. There's normally a cotter pin on the bottom, which you have to take out first. And then up here, you have these two bolts to pull the bracket off. Now remember, this bracket has to go on the new caliper, so just go ahead and bolt it right back down to the new caliper. If you ever have trouble getting this pin out here, what you can do is if you can take this spring off just by lifting it up with pliers and moving it over the way and pulling it off of here, and then you can undo this this nut right here, and this whole thing will come off, and you'll undo these as well, and then you'll be able to flip this over and work at it from the bottom side and possibly hammer it out if you need to. None of my stuff's gonna be stuck though, so I don't need to do any of that. I'm just gonna go ahead and unbolt it and swap the stuff over. So we'll take a look at that.
When I first saw you, my world stopped spinning. Now my world revolves around you. Did your heart stop when you first saw me? Did your world stop spinning?
All right, so if we take a look here, you can see we have this bracket and it actually fits in there perfectly. We don't have to cut the dust shield at all. So that's pretty cool. And then the other thing that's cool is the size rotor that we're running is identical to the Integra Type-R rotor. The only difference is that it's 4-lug instead of 5-lug. So we can still keep this clip inside of the caliper, just like that, like the one we had to take off in the front. We do not have to take that off in the rear. So we're gonna go ahead and bolt everything in here now. I'm about to throw the caliper on there. I just want to make sure, because I didn't mention it when I did the fronts. Anytime you guys do a brake job, make sure that you're putting grease on these clips at the bottom. Try not to hit the rotor with the grease, and then also on these tabs on the pads where they slide. And then also, another very important thing, you don't really have to do it with new calipers, but with older calipers, every time you change your brakes, you want to take these slide pins out and grease them. Now, I double checked on my new calipers. They are greased on both the power stop calipers and these ones. So I'm good to go. But make sure that you do that. But now we're ready to go ahead and throw that caliper on. So we're gonna throw the caliper on and then bolt the e-brake cable back up.
First saw me. Did your world stop spinning? Does your world revolve around me?
Well, we've run into a small problem. So these are the ones, the bolts that go through here, right? Well, if you put them into the caliper, they just slide right through. So that's no good. So we need a one size bigger bolt, and then we might end up having to drill these holes out a little bit bigger. No worries though. We'll get it taken care of. So I'm gonna try to find a bigger bolt for down there first, and then see if it's still, there's a little bit of play in here, so we'll see if it fits through here or if we have to drill them out. Man, I was just messing around. Look how close that is to not fitting with the wheel on. It does fit, but it's like a millimeter away. I have the spacers on here, so that's no problem. I mean, even if I didn't have the spacers on, that wouldn't be a problem. That just looks gnarly. So you can't really tell too much. Man, it's really hard to tell. There's a size difference there too. It's about an inch. Those rotors are about an inch bigger. But more importantly, the easiest way to see the size difference is by using the brake pads. So here are the Integra front brake pads, which are already way bigger than Civic brake pads. And then here are the Integra Type-R brake pads. You can see the difference there. Pretty big difference, but what's even bigger than that is the difference between the rears. So here's the stock Integra brake pad, and then here's the Integra Type-R rear brake pad. So pretty big difference here. I should get a decent amount more stopping power. All right, guys, it is the next day, and it is super crappy outside. But anyway, I found with these calipers that this one, which is one of the originals, this hole's not threaded, so it slips through. So I bought a nut for the side. This is M8 by 1, I believe. It's a thread pitch, M8 by 1. I got the nuts right here. And then these bolts are M10 by 1.25, and those will thread into here. So we're going to use the bigger bolt for the one side and then the original bolt with the new nut for the other side. But I believe we do have to drill out. We'll find out in a second. So it does unfortunately look like we will have to drill this out just a little bit on the one side. But that's okay. We're going to go ahead and do that and get this e-brake cable bolted in. Alright, so now we have both of these bolts in right here. This is the one that threaded in. This one I had to take the caliper off to put a nut on the bottom. And The issue that we're running into now is this bracket hits right here on this nut, and it did not do that on the other caliper. It is actually preventing me from putting this on. So this won't go. Whoops. I just pulled the brake pads off so I don't drop them. But basically, this back piece needs to be able to swivel out, which you can't do with the caliper not on here already. So basically you pretty much have to put this on after the caliper is bolted over the brake pad. And the only way to do that, because you can't get to this nut underneath with it on, is to bolt it on with just one bolt. So unfortunately we do got to take this side out, then that way this will be able to swivel a little bit, and we can also bolt this in afterwards. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull this nut out. If you do this and you're using these brackets off of a regular Integra, then you're going to have to do this the same way. Drill out the one side, get one bolt that threads in, and just hold this bracket on with one bolt instead of two. Alright, I finally got it all hooked up. You can see I even got the cotter pin in there now. And if you look over here, we just got the one bolt holding it on. That will be good enough. If you wanted to, you could put another bolt in there. If you had like a universal and something to get up in there to tighten the other end of it. But I'm not going to worry about it. It should work just fine as is. And I'm going to go ahead and do the other side now, which I'm not really going to show because you got the gist of it. You got this one right here, and you saw how I did this one right here. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side, and then we're going to go ahead and bleed the brakes. All right, so we're going to go ahead and bleed the brakes now. Alright guys, it's been a minute since I put the wheels back on the car. It's a nice day now. It's been rainy for the past few days, so didn't want to drive the car in the rain because I don't want to wash it. It's going to be in the garage for a while. But got the wheels on the car now. We're going to take the car for a drive, and we're going to bed the brakes. I'm going to show you the proper way of bedding in the brakes. But first, the car has been sitting here for a while. The battery's probably dead. I mean, it looks good, but the battery's going to be dead. There's going to be no air in the tank, and it's aired out on the lift right now. So we have to charge the battery, start the car to get the compressor pumping in the tank. I'm going to hook up my compressor here to the tank as well to try to help fill it up, because it's probably going to take, 10-15 minutes or so to get everything filled up. I'm going to also turn the heater on because I'm going to be working on another project after we're done with this one. So give me some time, or literally just 2 seconds to the next part of the video, and I'll have this thing running and off the lift. Alright you guys, I apologize for not having a better camera stand. This is going to be really shaky, but I got to go ahead and bleed the brakes. So the first thing that they say to do is 5 aggressive stops from 40 to 10 miles an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then you want to do 5 moderate stops from 35 to 5 miles an hour. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull out. I have a really bad feeling brake pedal right now. I'm pretty sure it's just because I have the wrong master cylinder. We bled it again just to be sure there's no line, there's no air in the line. So we're good there. It stops. So we're gonna go ahead and bed the brakes in. So we're gonna do a little pull first. Awesome. I miss this car. I haven't driven it in a while. The steering wheel's crooked. From the disc swap, the rear trailing arms must not be where I had them set before, so that's gonna have to be fixed. But we're gonna go ahead and turn left up here. Go somewhere where there's not very many cars, Man, my brake pedal feels awful. Alright, so we gotta do 5 a stop sign up here, you got to make sure you don't stop all the way when you're doing this because your brakes are hot. So go ahead and turn here. There's another car behind me, so I got to get out of the way so I can do my other 5. We're just going to pull into this parking lot right here. Alright, now we can do our next 5. From 35 to 5. So here's 1. Oh, 30, yeah. And then here's 2. Embedding in, and you know, the first ones I remembered I was supposed to only go down to 10 miles an hour, but I think it's gonna be okay. I went down to 5, but now we just got to go ahead and drive around for 5 minutes without really braking. So we want to drive around places where we won't have to stop. If I do have to stop, then I just want to make sure, you know, I'm not stopping all the way. Keep rolling a little bit. You got to let your brakes cool down at this point, and then everything's going to be fully broken in. Go ahead and stop the video here. I'm just gonna go ahead and drive around for a little bit and then we'll close out the video. Hey guys, thanks again for watching. This is gonna be the end of the video. I want to give another shout out to Power Stop for providing the brakes for me. That was very helpful. I super appreciate that. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you like the content and you want to see more, subscribe to the channel, and I appreciate your comment contributions. I appreciate even your dislikes if you don't like the video. But I do want to mention that the brake pedal got a lot better throughout the drive. I think maybe the rear calipers just needed to adjust, so that way, you know, the brake pedal grabbed a little higher up. But the brakes feel awesome, and it stops way better than it did before. Everyone have a good day, and peace out.